Welcome back to 7th Circle Gaming, the channel where we do our absolute best to give you the most objective analysis of video games on the internet. Today we're going to be analyzing, as the title card says, the latest installment of the long-running Assassin's Creed series, Assassin's Creed Shadows. We'll get into the analysis in just a moment, but of course we always start with the full disclosure. If you're interested in reading through all of this, just pause the video and read at your leisure. But if you'd prefer not to, or reading isn't really your thing, just let the video run and wait for the gameplay clips to start. In this first gameplay clip, we want to illustrate a couple of different things. First off, we are going to examine the user interface, which primarily occupies the edges of the screen, leaving the majority of the play space free to render the in-game world. At the top center of the screen, in its usual place, is the compass. At the top left-hand corner of the screen, we have the journal, or the currently selected mission indicator. At the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, we have indicators for player health, as well as currently selected weapon. At the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, if we had any unlocked, we would see a cooldown timer, although because this is very early in the game, we haven't unlocked any additional special abilities. While this gameplay footage is still from early in the game, we have unlocked an additional weapon set that is not available to players early in the game. Now enjoy the rest of this gameplay footage free from comment, although we do suggest paying attention to what the world looks like. In this second bit of gameplay footage that we're looking at, we're going to see one of the other major aspects of player agency that the game provides, in addition to the ability to shape within some limits the player character's appearance, as well as charting the character progression. The game allows players to build their home base area within some limits. Some of these customizations and additional buildings will have to be purchased from in-game vendors, and some will be automatically unlocked as players progress throughout the game. And that's all the in-game footage we have to share with you on this particular video, so let's now move on to our first proper chapter, and that is, as it always is, immersion. Here, the game has earned a score of 8 out of 15, which is above average, leaning more toward the good end of the spectrum. The game seems to rely primarily on 4 different areas for immersing players into its in-game world. The first is presentation. We have a third-person perspective with a fairly realistic art style and an historical setting, although how much players relate to that setting is going to rely on their familiarity with the time period that the game is set in. Second, the game utilizes a story to get players invested into its in-game world. These are all part of a much larger plot that players can uncover as they experience the in-game world. Third is challenge, and primarily that is going to be in the form of real-time combat. As you might have seen in that first bit of in-game footage, combat seems to be fairly different from other games in the Assassin's Creed series. Third and fourth and finally is the statistics management. All of the in-game objects have statistics available for players to manage and attempt to optimize. In our second chapter, which is, as it always is, difficulty, the game has earned a score of 4.5 out of 15, which is rather low. To put it briefly, while the game does provide players with a seemingly significant amount of options to impact difficulty of the game, and they are relatively well described, there are several hidden options that the player has no idea of that may impact their experience of the game. before we move on and compile everything in the overall score, we must first address lasting appeal. And here the game has earned a score of 7 out of 15. And if a 7.5 is average, well then a 7 out of 15 is average but leaning more toward the low end of the spectrum. Aside from the usual ideas of attempting the game utilizing different difficulty settings, different difficulty options, attempting a challenge run, or just in the interest of getting a 100% completion, there really doesn't seem to be a lot that's going to drive players to attempt the game a second or a third or maybe even a fourth time. And now we come to it, the overall score. Here Assassin's Creed Shadows has earned a score of 6.5 out of 15, which, when we consider that a 7.5 out of 15 is average, a 6.5 is below average, although in this particular case it should really be understood as more of a niche game than a below average game. Before we get subjective in here, please do note that Assassin's Creed Shadows requires a solid state or SSD drive and a capacity of at least 1 terabyte or greater. And now then, it's time to get subjective, so I hope you have your salt handy. Definitely play the game with a gamepad, or if you are going to insist on playing the game with a keyboard and mouse, expect to spend a significant amount of time customizing the keys. Combat in Assassin's Creed Shadows is seemingly very different from other games in the series. Enemies will not patiently wait their turn to be defeated by the player. They will happily attack the player as many as 2, 3, or even 4 at a time. And now let us come to it, the issue that I'm sure many of you have been waiting to hear about, and that is how we are going to address the topic of representation in Assassin's Creed Shadows. And on that subject, we are simply going to say that this is an entertainment product. It is not a PhD thesis on the culture or the history of Japan in the early 17th, late 16th century. Nor should it be taken as such. It is approximately equal to a cartoon. And here's where the game begins to run into issues. The very same people that the game is going to attempt to appeal to are the same ones as are going to object to the game for its representation of Japanese history and culture. But if we strip away the culture and historical issues that the game has, it is fundamentally another Assassin's Creed game. Socio-cultural and historical issues aside, Assassin's Creed Shadows is another game in the long-running Assassin's Creed series. To sum up, we did find Assassin's Creed Shadows was an easy game to spend a lot of time with. We do recommend playing the game with a gamepad as opposed to a mouse and keyboard, or if you do insist on playing the game with mouse and keyboard, expect to spend a fair amount of time fine-tuning the keys to your personal preferences. And as long as you're able to put aside your issues about socio-cultural concerns, Assassin's Creed Shadows does represent good value for money in terms of the amount of activities for players to engage with.
And on that final, highly subjective note, we do offer hearty congratulations to everyone who watched all the way to the end of the video. Just to give you a bit of a heads up, the next couple of videos on the channel are going to be Rise of the Ronin, followed by a couple of older games that we personally have tried, but don't really think that we gave a fair chance to the first time around. We look forward to seeing you on those next couple of videos, and you are cordially invited to subscribe, like, and do all of the other YouTube things that the YouTubers ask you to do. Until then, from 7th Circle Gaming, goodbye.